Good morning. In today's segment, we are going to look at descriptive grammar. How is descriptive grammar different from prescriptive grammar? For years, we have been introduced to the prescriptive model of grammar developed by the likes of Wren and Martin. There are several problems with a prescriptive model of grammar. What are these? Let me illustrate this with a few examples. Verbs are very often confused as action words. They are often described as action words, thus presenting a very simplistic understanding of verbs. Kids are taught maths in class at a very tender age, and they very often recite a mathematical table as 2 2s are 4. Now, the verb are in this sentence is not an action verb. And yet, students are taught in the English classroom that verbs are always action words. This ends up confusing the learner. The descriptive model takes these into account and tries to demystify grammar and describes grammar as it is used, rather than therefore prescribing rules governing the usage of grammar. A descriptive model of grammar is engaged in describing the way language is used. Thus, Leach, Deutscher, and Hugenrath show how verbs, for instance, not only refer to action words, but also refer to states of mind. For example, I could say Sheba seems tired. Sheba seems hungry. Now, seems here is also not an action word, but it's definitely a verb. Language, as understood by Leach, Deutscher, and Hugenrath, varies according to its use as well as according to the user who is employing the language at any given point in time. Let us look at how language varies both according to use as well as according to the user. The use to which we are putting the language very often depends on three specific categories. What are these categories? They are tenor, mood, and domain. Let us look at each one of these in some detail. Tenor refers to the tone of the communication. This tone is decided depending on the relationship that the speaker has with his audience or the reader has with the writer. For instance, if a person is addressing his teacher, the tenor of the communication will automatically be polite and formal. Whereas if he is addressing his friend, it will tend to be colloquial and informal. The tenor of communication, therefore, keeps changing depending on the relationship that the speaker has with his audience. The mode refers to the medium of communication. Whether we are writing a letter or we are composing an email or we are using WhatsApp or any other social media handle decides the nature of our communication. The third and important category is that of domain. Domain refers to the area of language use. This area will change depending on the kind of use we are putting the language to. For example, we could be using language within the domain of literature. Therefore, metalinguistic vocabulary, which is peculiar to literature and literary studies, will become a shortcut to communication. Jargon of any nature is essentially a shortcut to one's communication. This jargon could be literary. For example, shared communication between the teacher of literature and the students of literature tends to use technical vocabulary such as similes, metaphors, symbols, symbolism, naturalism, so on and so forth. Commercial jargon is the jargon which would be used by students of commerce, such as credit and debit. Scientific vocabulary which is technical to chemistry or to physics, botany or zoology will be used by the students using the language in this particular domain. Legal jargon would be specific to law as a domain. Advertising would naturally use certain persuasive language in order to persuade the prospective consumer to buy the product or create an interest or desire to buy the product. All these are therefore necessarily persuasive in nature. Advertising as a domain therefore has a very dominant persuasive function. Journalism, on the other hand, as a domain, has an informative function or also called a referential function. We now move on to how according to the user. There are four categories in which this variation occurs. The first is regional origin. The regional origin of the user of a language very often decides the vocabulary he uses, the pronunciation he employs, as well as the kind of grammar he employs. Let us take an example of various regions of England where different kinds of pronunciations are used. For example, Geoffrey Boycott, when he is commenting on a cricket match, very often uses a different pronunciation which is typical of those who hail from the Yorkshire region in England. For example, the word run. Very often the pronunciation he employs is run. Instead of sun, they say sun. This is again typical of the Yorkshire region. Age is also a factor which helps the variation according to user. For example, if a person is 16, he would tend to use words such as cool, swag, what's up, so on and so forth, because this is an informal in-group communication he or she is used to. Someone who is 55 may not be familiar with this kind of colloquial vocabulary. Gender is another category according to which language varies. This, though controversial, has been sociologically observed as a reason for variation in language. Men are socially conditioned to naturally be reticent and therefore use a lesser number of adjectives to describe a situation than women would. Women are more likely to use baby talk and coochie-coo when dealing with babies than men are. These are of course myths and have been debunked several times by feminists, but that is another matter altogether. Social class membership also decides how much of an exposure the person has to reading and literature, and therefore language will vary accordingly. We have thus looked at how the descriptive model varies from the prescriptive model. We will look at how the form and function class labels will change and are to be shown in our next unit. Thank you.